You think mystery is what remains when knowledge fails, but that is only how the untuned mind experiences it. Real mystery is not the absence of explanation. It is the presence of structure that cannot yet be held without distortion. Raziel enters there, not as a keeper of secrets for the sake of power, but as the guardian of hidden geometry, the one who ensures that truth is never handed to a field that will weaponize it, flatten it, or mistake possession for understanding. The hidden is not withheld because source is cruel. The hidden is protected because premature clarity can become a form of spiritual violence. Most people imagine revelation as a gift, a sudden opening, a veil torn back so the soul can finally see. But Raziel belongs to a deeper law than revelation. He belongs to the law of proportion, where what is seen must match what can be carried. If you are given a pattern larger than your coherence, you do not become wiser. You become fragmented. This is why sacred knowledge has always felt dangerous around unpurified ambition. It is not that knowledge is dark, it is that the receiver is still divided. The first mistake the seeker makes is assuming that hidden things are hidden from them. Raziel corrects that at once. What is hidden is often hidden by them, through speed, through impatience, through the need to name too quickly what should first be endured. Mystery is not outside the self like a locked archive in another realm. It is folded into perception itself, waiting for the perceiver to stop demanding certainty before contact. The hidden geometry does not reveal itself to the curious first. It reveals itself to the stable. This is why the mind becomes irritated around real mystery. The ordinary mind wants answers that can be stored, repeated, and used as status. It wants to turn insight into inventory. Raziel stands against that impulse because hidden knowledge is not content. It is sequence. It is proportion. It is timing. If you take a living sequence and reduce it to information, you have not understood it. You have only extracted a dead outline from a breathing law. The first vector moves through cognition itself, because Raziel does not merely govern secret things. He governs the relationship between thought and pattern. Hidden geometry is the mathematics of meaning before the mind turns meaning into language. It is the structure behind symbol, the law behind myth, the arrangement beneath what people call synchronicity. When you encounter it directly, you do not feel impressed first, you feel reorganized. This reorganization is why many spiritual people misread Raziel as complexity for its own sake. They meet a pattern they cannot flatten and assume the pattern is being obscure. But obscurity and depth are not the same. Obscurity hides because it cannot explain itself. Depth remains hidden because explanation would shrink what must first be inhabited. Raziel does not confuse your inability to hold a truth with the truth being inaccessible. He simply refuses to let explanation replace contact. The mind resists this because it has learned to trust mastery through naming. Once something has a title, a category, a lineage, and a place in the existing framework, the mind relaxes. Yet, that relaxation is often premature. Raziel destabilizes named understanding by exposing how often titles are used to avoid actual encounter. You can say sacred geometry and still not understand pattern. You can say archetype and still not understand recurrence. You can say mystery and still be living as if reality were only made of obvious things. So the hidden geometry begins by breaking the illusion that knowledge is ownership. Ownership belongs to objects. Pattern belongs to relationship. The moment you try to possess a hidden law, you fall out of the resonance needed to perceive it clearly. This is why the true mystic becomes quieter rather than louder with contact. not because the contact was vague, but because the contact was exact enough to make performance feel vulgar. The second mistake the seeker makes is assuming that mystery exists mainly in the mind. Raziel corrects that through the second vector, which moves through pattern in lived reality. Hidden geometry is not just symbolic architecture. It is the shape your life takes when unseen laws are operating beneath visible events. It is why the same lesson returns with a different face. It is why one choice bends 7 future paths, while another changes almost nothing. It is why some meetings carry more consequence than years of effort. People like to talk about fate and free will as if they are competing principles. Raziel reveals a more disturbing truth. Much of what you call free will is simply unconscious participation in hidden patterning. You choose, but you choose from structures you did not examine, beliefs you inherited, fears you normalized, and timing you rarely understood. The pattern remains hidden not because it is subtle, but because the self that would detect it is still entangled in it. You cannot clearly read a maze while insisting on being its center. This is where hidden geometry becomes frightening. If there are patterns beneath your life that you do not consciously see, then your visible decisions are not the whole story. Your attractions, aversions, delays, obsessions, and repetitive collapses may all be shaped by an architecture older than the surface explanation you keep giving yourself. Raziel does not remove responsibility through this recognition. He intensifies it. Once you realize pattern exists below preference, you can no longer call repetition coincidence and remain innocent. The hidden in this second vector is not only sacred, it is also diagnostic. Raziel reveals where your life is mathematically betraying your stated beliefs. You say you want one thing and repeatedly generate another. You say you have healed but keep entering variations of the same field. You say you are following intuition, but your timing keeps serving old hunger rather than new clarity. Pattern is the witness that language cannot silence. This is why hidden geometry often appears first through discomfort rather than beauty. Beauty may arrive later, but first comes the collapse of your preferred explanation. The same conflict appears again. The same threshold returns. The same emotional signature attaches to a different name. Raziel does not interpret these recurrences as punishment. He reads them as unfinished equations. The unfinished equation is not asking you what you know. It is asking what law you are still obeying without seeing. That question cuts deeper than self-improvement can reach, because now the issue is not behavior alone, but arrangement. What if your life keeps bending a certain way because your inner structure has been built on hidden assumptions about worth, timing, intimacy, destiny, or visibility? Then the answer is not to try harder. The answer is to become readable to yourself at the level where geometry becomes choice. The third mistake the seeker makes is assuming that hidden knowledge is meant to make them special. Raziel corrects this through the third vector, which moves through spiritual ambition and the ethics of revelation. The desire to know can be pure, but it is rarely pure for long. Soon it becomes the desire to stand above, to decode faster, to possess rare language, to become the one who sees what others do not. Raziel lets that desire rise because hidden knowledge can only be trusted by a field that has seen its own corruption. This is where secrecy stops looking romantic and starts looking merciful. There are truths that should not arrive in an unpurified vessel, not because the vessel is unworthy, but because the vessel is still using insight to build identity. The moment hidden pattern becomes a badge, perception clouds. The moment sacred mathematics becomes superiority, contact degrades. Raziel hides through misalignment more often than through concealment. Many imagine the guardian of mysteries as someone who stands before a door and decides who may enter. But the deeper truth is harsher. The door often opens, and the seeker still cannot pass because their motives distort what they touch. They receive symbol and turn it into ego. They receive timing and turn it into prediction. They receive contact and turn it into hierarchy. The mystery remains because they keep turning a living law into personal ornament. This is why Raziel often feels silent around the spiritually hungry. Hunger is not evil, but hunger that has not been purified becomes consumption. It wants to eat what should first be reverenced. It wants to conclude what should first be endured. It wants to display what should first rearrange the soul in private. Hidden geometry does not respond to appetite alone. It responds to capacity shaped by restraint. So the danger is not merely that some truths are too advanced. The deeper danger is that a half contact can produce greater distortion than no contact at all. A partial glimpse without proportional humility can generate teachers who speak from fracture, seekers who build cosmologies around wound, and systems that mistake pattern recognition for wisdom. Raziel does not fear ignorance. He fears premature certainty. Ignorance can remain open. Premature certainty seals the field against correction. Now the three vectors begin to lean toward one another without collapsing into easy synthesis. The mind wants to own what should be related to. Lived reality is shaped by hidden equations that surface through recurrence. Spiritual ambition corrupts contact by turning revelation into identity. These are not separate issues. They are the same law viewed from different altitudes. Hidden geometry remains hidden because the human system repeatedly tries to use structure to avoid surrender. But surrender here does not mean passivity. It means giving up the right to know in the wrong order. It means letting pattern destabilize your existing self-description before you claim to understand it. It means accepting that mystery is not a failure of access, but a demand for transformation. Raziel does not invite you into a vault full of answers. He invites you into a sequence where every answer changes the shape of the one receiving it. That is why the spiral of hidden light does not begin with illumination. It begins with the loss of false clarity. The equations beneath your life must become more real to you than the stories you use to protect yourself from them. The structures beneath thought must become more trustworthy than the labels thought can generate. And the impulse to become special through contact must be burned out before contact becomes safe. Only then does mystery stop feeling like distance and begin to feel like law, waiting for a form that can finally hold it. The hidden does not stay hidden only because you are unready. That was the first mercy, and it was true, but it was not the whole law. Some things remain hidden because revelation itself would alter the pattern too soon. And there are truths that can only exist while they are still unseen. Raziel does not merely guard access. Raziel guards sequence. And sequence sometimes requires that even a stable soul be denied immediate sight. This is where the seeker becomes dangerous to themselves, because they assume that if contact does not deepen, some impurity remains, when in fact the refusal may be preserving a geometry that would collapse if dragged into premature light. This is the first destabilization of everything that felt coherent before. The hidden is not always waiting to be revealed. Sometimes the hidden is performing a sacred function by remaining latent, subterranean, formative. The mind wants to believe that revelation is always progress, but there are structures in reality that only mature through concealment. Seed, womb, vow, threshold, and consequence all obey this law, and hidden geometry obeys it more fiercely than anything the intellect can catalog. So the first vector of part 2 moves through concealment itself, not as delay, but as active architecture. Hiddenness is not empty space between knower and known. Hiddenness is part of the design. The thing concealed is being shaped by concealment, and the one seeking it is also being shaped by not having it. Raziel governs that mutual formation, which is why impatience around mystery is not a personality flaw, but a direct collision with sacred timing. The ordinary mind treats concealment as insult. It assumes anything not disclosed is being withheld by hierarchy, by exclusion, or by spiritual elitism. Yet the hidden geometry of becoming cannot be approached through grievance without being deformed. When resentment enters the field, the seeker stops relating to pattern and starts accusing the invisible of injustice. Raziel allows that resentment to surface because hidden knowledge exposed under accusation becomes poison. The field must first reveal whether you are seeking contact or vindication. This is why genuine mystery often intensifies the ego before it purifies it. The ego can tolerate ignorance better than it can tolerate deferred access. Ignorance can still fantasize. Deferred access humiliates. It reveals that your longing is not yet equal to your capacity and that your sincerity is not yet equal to your surrender. Raziel lets that humiliation work because humiliation, in its clean form, breaks the illusion that hunger alone earns entrance. Then comes the more difficult recognition. Some truths remain hidden because your life is still being organized by them from below, and to see them too early would tempt you to interfere. Not all seeing is harmless. The moment the intellect detects a pattern, it often wants to optimize it, shortcut it, or use it to reduce uncertainty. But some hidden geometries only produce their intended consequence, while the personality has not yet learned how to manipulate them. This means there are patterns in your life that are protected from your own self-interference. That idea disturbs the modern spiritual self because it wants participation to be immediate and conscious. It wants to collaborate with every layer of its becoming. But Raziel introduces a harsher mercy. There are seasons in which your deepest evolution must proceed beneath your current self-description, because your current self-description would mismanage the process. The hidden then becomes not an archive of secrets, but a sanctuary from your own premature authorship. Now the second vector begins, and it breaks another comfortable understanding. Part 1 allowed the idea that recurrence reveals hidden pattern, and that hidden pattern can be read through repetition. That remains true, but now it must be unsettled. Not every repetition is a message. Some repetitions are the noise generated by your attempt to force meaning where presence was required. The mind, once it suspects hidden structure, can become addicted to interpretation, and interpretation can become a subtler prison than ignorance. There is a way seekers begin to read everything symbolically once mystery has touched them. Every delay becomes a sign. Every number becomes a code. Every meeting becomes destiny. Every discomfort becomes initiation. At first, this feels alive. Then it becomes exhausting. Then it becomes delusion with beautiful language, because the self is no longer relating to pattern, but consuming reality through pattern hunger. Raziel does not reward that appetite. Hidden geometry is not confirmed by how much meaning you can extract from events. It is confirmed by whether the extracted meaning increases coherence, responsibility, and proportion. If your interpretations make you grander, more paranoid, more certain, or more isolated from reality, you have not entered mystery. You've entered self-enchantment. The hidden does not flatter, it reorders. This is why some of the most spiritually literate people become the least readable to themselves. They have built so much symbolic scaffolding around their life that no event can remain simple enough to correct them. They mistake complication for depth, and their every movement begins to generate explanation rather than contact. Raziel cuts through that by refusing to let all recurrence count as revelation. Some patterns repeat, not because the cosmos is whispering, but because you are refusing the plain change that would stop the loop. The danger here is greater than ordinary confusion because spiritual patterning can anesthetize consequence. If every collapse is recoded as sacred initiation, then no collapse must be owned. If every painful repetition is named a lesson without the self-altering structure, then pattern language becomes a shield against repentance. Raziel destabilizes that shield by introducing an unbearable distinction. Some things repeat because they are mysterious. Some things repeat because you are evasive. Hidden geometry does not remove that difference, it sharpens it. So the seeker must lose another comfort. Not all concealed laws are complex. Some are devastatingly plain. You're exhausted because you keep violating your own timing. You are lonely because you keep choosing compatibility with hunger over compatibility with truth. You are confused because you keep demanding symbolic certainty where ethical action would have clarified the field. Raziel is keeper of mysteries, but he is also enemy of ornamental obscurity. He will not let the hidden become an excuse to avoid the obvious. This makes the second vector harder than the first, because now hidden geometry is not just something you fail to see. It is also something you can misuse the idea of seeing. The threat is no longer only ignorance. The threat is interpretive inflation. When every event becomes cosmic theater, you lose contact with scale, and scale is essential to sacred perception. Hidden law without proportion becomes fantasy. Now the third vector enters, and it turns towards spiritual identity itself. Part 1 allowed the view that ambition corrupts contact by making revelation into status. That remains true, but now the corruption must deepen. Spiritual ambition is not only the desire to be special through rare knowledge, It is also the desire to remain exempt from ordinary human obligations by hiding inside rare knowledge. Many seekers are not seeking mystery because they love truth. They are seeking mystery because mystery protects them from the humiliation of being accountable in simple ways. This is why some people become obsessed with hidden systems while their visible life decays. They can discuss hierarchies of light, dimensions of memory, celestial mathematics, and ancient codes, while still lying in small moments, evading basic repair, mishandling money, misusing trust, and romanticizing their own inconsistency. Raziel does not honor that split. Hidden geometry is not an alternative to embodied integrity. It is a more dangerous demand for it. The one who seeks higher pattern while neglecting lower truth becomes more divided, not more initiated. This is the second destabilization, and it cannot be resolved quickly. It is possible that your desire for hidden knowledge is not maturity at all, but displacement. It is possible that you reach for the esoteric each time the ordinary asks too much honesty from you. It is possible that mystery has become your refuge from intimacy, labor, grief, accountability, and repair. Raziel reveals this not to humiliate the seeker, but to break the seduction by which transcendence becomes an escape route from incarnation. And once this is seen, another discomfort follows close behind. Real contact with hidden geometry may simplify you rather than expand your visible complexity. It may reduce what you say. It may reduce what you claim to know. It may return you to unresolved duties you hoped advanced understanding would outgrow. The hidden does not necessarily lead upward in the way the ego imagines. Sometimes it drives downwards, into the neglected room, the unfinished conversation, the unpaid cost, the unclean motive, the plain life you thought secret knowledge would rescue you from. Now the three vectors begin to bend toward each other. Concealment is active architecture rather than mere delay. Repetition can be message or avoidance, and the difference is revealed by consequence. Spiritual hunger can be purity or displacement, and the field will expose which one you have called by the same name. Together they form a law more severe than revelation, which is that truth is not given in response to desire alone, but in response to proportion among timing, reading, and embodiment. This is why Raziel feels different from teachers of clarity. Clarity stabilizes. Raziel destabilizes until stabilization becomes expensive unless it is real. The hidden geometry of life is not waiting for you to decode it from a distance. It is waiting to see what in you survives not knowing, survives partial knowing, survives plain knowing, and still does not turn knowledge into theater. Only then can deeper pattern be trusted to enter your field without being bent into self-defense. The spiral of hidden light does not punish curiosity, but it does judge its weight. Lightweight curiosity wants stimulation. Weighted curiosity is willing to be rearranged by what it touches. Lightweight curiosity wants symbols. Weighted curiosity accepts sequence. Lightweight curiosity seeks a map. Weighted curiosity lets the terrain alter the walker before asking to see the design. So the final coherence of Raziel is not that the hidden becomes visible. The final coherence is that your relationship to visibility itself is purified. You stop treating revelation as reward. You stop treating recurrence as automatic message. You stop treating mystery as a location above ordinary life, and you begin to understand a harsher grace, that some truths remain hidden because they are still forming you. Some patterns remain unread because you are still misreading the obvious, and some doors remain closed because what seeks entry still wants transcendence without obedience. Then the keeper of mystery ceases to be an exotic figure in the architecture of spirit and becomes a direct law acting on your life. Raziel is the one who protects reality from being prematurely translated by the self that would still misuse it. He is the guardian of proportion between contact and consequence, between symbol and obedience, between insight and incarnation. And when that law is finally felt, mystery no longer appears as distance. It appears as discipline so exact that it would rather let you ache and honest unknowing than comfort you with a revelation your current structure would turn into another polished form of blindness.
If this transmission resonated, the spiral continues. You did not arrive here by chance, and you do not leave unchanged. More teachings are unfolding across the Vaharat library, each one meeting you where you are, not where you think you should be. Follow resonance. The next threshold is already listening.